Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living's Wednesday night Oasis. And I've got to tell you, we are having a fabulous debut this evening. But before I jump ahead of myself, let me get my script up here so I can tell you what we're doing. We are here for the Wednesday night Oasis. And if you've been here before, you know what this experience is like. This is a place where we come together between Sundays to talk about the topic that's been introduced the Sunday before. We come together, we talk about it, we ask questions about it, building upon that theme in what we call a satsang style. And tonight, as I alluded to, we have a debut of a conversation, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So last Sunday, our own practitioners, Constance Chapman and Judith Roberts, introduced the idea, inspired by the talk title, of the genius of and. And tonight, our speakers will continue the exploration of that same topic, and maybe others. We'll see where the conversation goes. This year, our annual theme in the Centers for Spiritual Living is Living Out Loud. Now, the monthly theme for October, which we're still kind of playing with, is Playing with Paradox. So I'd like to say hello to any new people. Before I came on camera, I didn't notice anyone I didn't know, but I know you're out there, and I welcome you. You are welcome to our community. And to find out more about our community, I invite you to visit our website, www.oaklandcsl.org. And when you're there, click on the I'm New icon, give us your email address, and we'll be sure to send you the village news once a week with all the information about what's going on at the center. So before we get started, some housekeeping notes. Please be sure to mute your audio during the conversation. You can leave your video camera on so that the speakers can see you if they decide to look at the video, but keep your audio muted. It helps with our recording later on. There will be a time when you can unmute yourself to answer and ask questions. So I want you to stay tuned all the way to the end of service for some important announcements that I'll be giving to you then. In the meantime, I would like to introduce our speakers. Well, actually, I'll introduce one of our speakers and she'll introduce the other. So tonight, our speaker that I'm going to introduce is Reverend Sunshine Michelle Coleman, and you know our senior minister of the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. Now, before we go too much further, Reverend Sunshine, will you be doing the honor of the opening prayer this evening?
Actually, I asked and she said yes, Rev Deb Hammond, if she would grace us with that prayer.
Fabulous. Come on out, Rev Deb.
So let us just take this moment, this time, to just allow our eyes to close and to just feel the love, the peace, the joy that is surrounding us right here and right now, knowing that this is God's love, God's peace, God's joy, knowing and giving thanks that this time that we have together in this moment has already been created in the mind of God. So what I know is that this conversation, this invitation of the yes, to say yes to all that will unfold for this time together is already done. Blessing Miss Grady as she steps into this amazing time of just having fun and just being open and being honest with whatever it is that shows up as her wisdom is just presented to all of us in this moment. And Reverend Sunshine Michelle, as she is bringing the questions and the conversation and such ease and grace, and giving thanks for each person that had anything to do with this service for this evening, all the hands and hearts that have brought this all together. Because without all of this, we would not be here in this moment. For all the people that are showing up to watch this recording later or that are live on here, just know that your hearts are felt. Your joys is felt in this moment. So I'm just grateful for everything that is showing up for this Wednesday night oasis. Just sit back and enjoy this conversation and take in whatever it is that is to be received. Open your heart to receive. And I'm just grateful that I release this knowing that it is so. And so it is. Amen.
And so,
Amen.
amen.
Mhm.
So do I take it away now?
Take it away, Reverend Sunshine.
Okay, here I go. Well, beloveds, as you know by now, I'm sure, I listen to spirit. And what I heard here recently was that I was to invite Miss Grady Mae to a conversation with me. And I called and I asked her, and she said, yes, kinda. And so we just got talking and I said, Miss Grady is gonna be just like this. We're gonna have a good time. So, you know, she trusted herself. She trusted me to play with spirit. And so here we are tonight, co-creating this thing that is mostly spontaneous. So I first want to introduce Miss Grady, and then I want to make a couple of references from our awesome Sunday service. Well, maybe let me introduce her first because I want to bring her in here, right? And then I will just point out a few things that Judith and Constance brought to us on Sunday, and then we're going to open up a conversation with Miss Grady and I. And so what I learned even tonight about Miss Grady is that she has been in this science of mind and New Thought philosophy since the early 80s. She was here before at Oakland Center before Dr. Owen Moen. I was like, whoa, which is lovely. And she told us that she was introduced to this philosophy via radio and listened to it for years, but it wasn't until a while later that she realized that what she was listening to was Ernest Holmes. And before that, she was at the Lakeside Temple for Practical Christianity in the Unity philosophy. And along the way somewhere, she heard J. Scott Neal in Fremont. So, and she's well steeped in this philosophy is what I'm trying to tell you. And so it's no wonder that the wisdom of our metaphysical belief system spouts out of her just so naturally. I started hearing about Gradyisms when I first got here, and I said, well, what is that? And I noticed that it was attached to a person. And then I noticed that she was in a lot of the sessions and classes and different things. Miss Grady shows up and is an elder in our Oakland Center community that is beloved. And I'm sure that's why y'all here tonight, because y'all hear me, but you don't get to hear her as much. And so I just want to introduce and want you to give some snaps and claps and heart emojis to Miss Grady Mae Nobles. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend. And thank you all for being here. Tonight it's good to see you all. And I'm both pleased and surprised to be here. But I'm looking forward to it, and I have been since I was invited. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Dodie, I saw your hand go up. We don't want a hand yet. No, I'm just teasing. If you have a burning question, but if I ask you to hold it, just write your comments down on your notes because we will get to that.
I apologize. I was trying to find the heart and the hand came up. My bad.
Okay, no worries. So I just wanted to, I did watch the recording. I was there live on Sunday for our Practitioner Sunday. And I just want to highlight a couple of things before I open up the conversation with Miss Grady around what Judith and Constance brought out. You know, the topic, as Reverend Sally talked about, is the genius of the and. Not or, but the and. It's the both and. Y'all hear me talk about that all the time. That's where the infinite possibility of God lives. And what Judith was, just a couple highlights, she talked about both and thinking as well. She also quoted someone, I didn't remember who it was, who said, I don't know what I don't know. So that to me says that there's a space of unknowing that you get comfortable with that yields a sense of understanding, she mentioned, connection and compassion. It's what I call the lean in principle when you have curiosity and wonderment. And she gave an example of a huge argument that she had that challenged a 20-year friendship that was really tough, where she got a chance to look at her own judgment and open up to greater flexibility and compassion. I love that because of the and, because she was able to lean into that. And she gave us a beautiful little song. It just had 3 stanzas to it that may I dwell, may you dwell, may we dwell in the heart. May I be free from suffering. May I be healed. May I be at peace. It was so sweet. And she and Constance both did activities because Constance had us do a lovely activity about extending one arm and holding a polarity of how we show up in the world. And then she had us extend the other arm and hold the polarity of how we are the anchor and the fulcrum of unity and harmony, she said. And then create a chain, because then she had us connect hands with other people, which was lovely. Matter of fact, somebody came up to me afterwards and said, I miss doing that. Can we do that again? Mm-hmm. It was beautiful. And it was because of that and principle that is the unity in the world. That's what she had us say as we were holding hands. I am the and who holds the unity in the world. It was lovely. And lastly, she gave an example, as did Judith. Constance's example was her upcoming retirement and how she could feel excitement and anticipation at the same time that she was experiencing abject fear, is what she called it, of what the future holds. That's sitting in the both and. And that's where spirit lives and can bring you through. She said, quote unquote, the biggest block to our own spiritual growth and transformation is judgment of self and others, which I thought was beautiful. So it was lovely. It was just a beautiful service. Thank you, Constance and Judith. I see Constance on. So with that, Miss Grady, I asked you, did you see the service? And you said you did. You saw the recording. So what did you think? What did you think about what they had to say and what I highlighted? Was there anything in particular?
Everything.
Everything.
It was just perfection, and I just enjoyed it so much and was glad to be there. And I was there in person, and I've since listened to it. And I believe in it, and I think I practice it to some point. And it's because when I get up in the morning, what I do is to, give thanks because, I made it through the night. I breathed and my heart beat and I'm awake. And I might think of something I have to do. I give my thanks immediately. And I might think, well, like today, because I had scheduled a dental appointment months ago, but had not put it down so that I could remember to remember it. And so but I thought I have to get up and get going, and I get to get up and get going. And I'll think sometimes like with shopping, I need to go shopping today or tomorrow. And I get to go shopping today and tomorrow because I think about some of the people in the world and what's going on now, and that there are people that can't get up and go to a dentist. There's none to go to. And or I saw one woman on with a group of people. They were trying to break into a warehouse. She kept saying, I need to feed my children. Well, I'm in gratitude. I can get up and get myself together and get to the grocery store and have something to buy something with. And so gratitude and a strong spiritual foundation. That was one of our topics in the Dr. Dan discussion on the 31st, I believe. And that strong spiritual foundation is necessary. Now, I've fallen off the New Thought wagon a couple of times, and it was really, when I think about it, it was around a time that I was in turmoil and distress, and I thought, well, I'll get back to my spiritual practices later after I take care of all this, which is the exact wrong thing. I keep my strong spiritual foundation and build, and everything else is solved around it. But I had
Snap.
I had to come to that. And so even I'm just more open to, to everything. And there were lessons to be learned from that for sure. I glanced at the calendar today and I saw my birthday month, this November, and I noticed the 16th and the 17th. Well, I've seen those birth dates for all of my life practically. And so I thought, and I looked at it and I thought about baby girl Blunt, born 11/17/1946, died 11/17/1946. And then I see, think of my birth date, 11/16/1947 to present. And I've thought of this before, that my sister and I would have been the same age one day out of the year, and then she would have been a year older the next day. All of these things that come up, and I give thanks every day for the ancestors for sure, that whose shoulders I stand on, and I'm proud to and pleased to do so. I realize it have contributed to my feeling of unworthiness over the years, and that's something that I'm still working through. And I want to answer am I answering your question?
Girl, it doesn't even matter. Keep
Okay,
going.
all right. And so I really believe in the end. I do. I can think of, there are lots of examples of the end. And I think of Helen Keller as one, because I can't tell the complete story without looking at some notes about it, but I know that she was less than 2 years old when she was stricken with some kind of virus. And so she had just learned to walk and talk, but was learning to. She was stricken, and then she became unable to speak, hear, or see. And so all at once she was, plunged into this no man's land, so to speak. I believe her parents were led to believe they should institutionalize her, but I believe they chose to go in the path of the and. So they hired a tutor, and this woman, I think Sullivan, was impaired herself, had impaired vision, but she kept working with this child, and one day through the action of her signing the word water and simultaneously holding her hand underwater, she came to know that that thing she was feeling was the thing that her teacher was spelling out in her hand. And so she's written at least 2 books that I'm aware of, and she says in there that I'm hesitant to try to read from my notes, because sometimes I know that when I'm in a group of people and I read something, it may not resonate the same with that, people as it does with me when I'm exposed to it and I'm in a space where I receive it and it's meaningful to me. But she became reconnected with the world, and after that, and all of these are and she went to school, she met and got acquainted with schoolmates, and she wrote, and she lectured, and she went on to many ands that her parents were on the journey with her because they would not accept an or. They would only accept ands and ands and ands and ands, and it went on with her. I think she's a wonderful example, and I want to go back to some of the writings about her, because it's a way to proceed in life, and along with that is a spiritual foundation which can be built upon in so many different ways, and certainly in this spiritual community, it can be in many ways. And also in that, I happen to like classes because it's an opportunity to learn and also to practice. It's endless, because I become more aware, like in the current class on principles and practices.
Spiritual principles and practices. We just finished it last night.
Right, but some of the things that I learned about was reading the textbook in the first person and reading aloud, and a whole new world opened up for me. I just enjoy that so much, and I get to affirm everything I read as I'm reading it, and I love it.
And that book, by the way, everybody, I'd love for you to try it, is Ernest Holmes' book called This Thing Called You. So you would, in the curriculum, what we did throughout the whole class is, as Miss Grady is saying, they asked for us to read it aloud some of the times, but to put it in first person. So it's this thing called me. And everything he was talking about was about me. About you too, but it's about me. And it takes on a whole different meaning. And we had such a lovely time in class, speaking of class. And by the way, you said a mouthful. I love everything you said, Miss Grady. And we're sitting right next to each other, by the way. We're in my office here at the center. That's why Reverend Charlie said, we're starting something new here. We're debuting a new idea. And number one, we're both Scorpios. Hot dog. It's Scorpio month. So Miss Grady, did you say November 16th?
Yes.
I'm November 13th. And you can remember that because I was born on a lucky Friday the 13th.
That's right.
But anyway, what I wanted to say, and this is a good place to interject this, is that what I've noticed about Miss Grady is everyone that refers to her and her tidbits, which are called Gradyism, speak about her with such reverence and such respect. And so we had a classmate in there in our class. It was a small class that just doted all over Miss Grady
Mhm.
and just called out all the beautiful guidance and wisdom and practices that Miss Grady, was experiencing and putting forth, that served as a role model for this student to do the same. Like she was a role model for someone else to do the same. And, in the Dr. Dan group and just different places, I've heard, oh, that's a Gradyism. What's that?
Mm.
So I just want to throw the question out here. I just want to see, if I want to open the floor. Is that okay for a minute, Miss Grady?
Sure.
Because I bet you there's at least a couple people out there. I just want to see a show of hands. I don't know if I can show you or some. Let me hang on a second because I want her to see this. I'm going to ask y'all a question. Hang on a second. Just by a show of either you raise your hand or put a something emoji or something in the chat, in the, your reaction button. How many of you have heard a Gradyism before? Look at that, Miss Grady. You see everybody raising their hand?
Mhm.
That's that. They're talking about stuff you said, right? Okay.
Right.
You can put your hands down, but wait a minute. It's gonna get better, right? It's getting ready to get juicy. You ready?
Okay, but I'd like to say something that
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
everybody has isms. And I get to hear them, frequently in the Dr. Dan group. I'd like to say one right now. I think we had a page from Dr. Dan on spiritual foundation. And here's a Dotyism. Spiritual foundation grows us from the inside out. And
Dodie, did you know you had a Dotyism? No, she didn't know that. You're on
They
mute.
call it out when we're talking about it. We claim it.
And she's also the author of many others, including Remember to Remember. And so there's, everybody in the group, has isms. And that's what being in a group or in a class partly is about, because you never know when you're going to say something to inspire someone. And so don't keep it to yourself, put it out there so that somebody else can grab it and get a hold of it and benefit from it. So
I love that. Okay, so I'm gonna toss it out right now, if that's okay. This is the interactive part. I see Peggy's hand up. I don't know if you meant to keep your hand up. I see Rev Deb's hand and I see Paul's hand because they know what I'm gonna say. So in that order, what is your Gradyism? Peggy?
I think my Gradyism is from this evening, which is that I think you said, Grady, that you affirm to affirm what it is that you know. I think that's what I heard you say, because that affirming to affirm it really stuck with me. So thank you.
Love it. Okay, what about you, Rev Deb?
So Grady, years ago, we were in a class and we were having a conversation about some emotional stuff that was coming up to the surface. And the thing that I remembered, and I always hold this, what you said was that it has to come up in order for us to give it up. So thank you for that.
okay,
I hold that dear to me.
you're welcome.
Beautiful. What about you, Paul?
My favorite Grady is one of about 30. When you worry, no need to pray. When you pray, no need to worry.
Hey, I like that.
Okay.
Look at that. You remember saying that?
No,
No.
I don't. I don't. And maybe somebody else said it and I repeated it. I don't know.
Okay, well, that's okay. Take credit for it.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Judith. You're muted. Can
You're
somebody?
muted.
No,
Okay, got it. Am I okay?
you're good.
Grady, back in March, you said life is ever giving to me, what am I giving to life?
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you. Dodie.
Oh, I don't really have a specific one because Grady gives us one practically every day. But is we're discussing something and going through something, and what she said turns a different slant on it, or have us say that makes it feel fuller or stronger, or I got it. So she gives them all the time.
I love that. Thank you. And listen, in class, I hang on just a second, Rabbi. I see you. In class, I forget when it was toward the beginning, but people kept talking about it, right? It reminded me of my PPG. She likes acronyms too, because she talked about the PMJ. What's the PMJ?
Pray, meditate, journal.
Okay, sounds like peanut butter and jelly or present to God, but that's a way to remember it, the PMJ. Okay, Rev Ikea.
The now is the how. That's a Gradyism from April 3rd.
Look at that.
They have so many of them written in here. We could go on and on.
Yeah, yeah.
I just love it. Now y'all see why I followed Spirit and why I had to bring her on, Paul.
One more because it's important. And it's included both the one I mentioned, we do a Friday prayer, Reverend Sunshine, that we've crafted together as a group. She has 2 lines. She has the one that I said, and then we end with, and it brings me to tears in a moment. Go within or go without.
Without. Yes, that's a good one.
That's one of her best. And they're all wonderful,
In
Grady.
or go without.
Go within or go without. We should have a little book of Gradyisms because they're all so good.
Yes.
Look at that. You see it? This is your fan
Yeah,
club.
and I see everybody, and I can't think of it right now. It's written in the book. Lula. Everybody says something. Lula said, some some things that I wrote in the book. So I know that I have it, but it's written in the book.
Can I tell them a little bit about our conversation? You have yes.
No, Reverend Sally is holding up a copy of the book.
She has hers right over there. So when I called Miss Grady and said, "Oh, look at the Dr. Danners," I knew y'all would be in the house. Everybody, I have one too, but it's at home. Need one here. Wait a minute. When we're on the phone and I'm talking to her and she says, "Paul, I can imitate you very well too. People love when I imitate you." But she says, "Reverend, well, I just don't know what to say." She says, "My heart is excited, but I don't know that can I think about it?" I said, "Yeah, Miss Grady, but I don't know if I have anything to say." "Miss Grady, we're having a good time right now." She says, "I'm having such a good time." I said, "It's gonna be just like that when we have this conversation." So she said, and then we kept going, right? And I kept hearing the yes more and more, because at first it was hesitant. And so I said, "Well, Miss Grady, I don't mean to push you, but is that a yes?" She said, "Yes, Reverend, it's a yes." So that's how we're here. I said, "I will come get you. I'll take you home. I'll do whatever we need to do for you to feel comfortable," because it was pressing on my heart. Listen, when Spirit speaks, we listen. You don't have to. It's about choice. But then don't go whining about you're not getting your prayer answered when you're not listening, because that might be the answer to your prayer, right? So I can imagine that there's a lot of answered prayer right here that y'all might not even know yet. That when it sits about this session tonight, something's gonna come up that might move some energy or some obstacle to help you sit more squarely in the end, because we co-created here tonight. That's what I got to say about it. Okay, Miss Grady, what else you want to say? Anything?
What else do I want to say?
You want to ask the group anything?
What time is it?
Don't worry about that. Okay. I got it. I'm gonna let you know when it's close to time.
I talked about the foundation. I just made a couple of one-liners that we need a good spiritual foundation and to keep, moving forward in that. And I have so many things scribbled here, some of which I can't even read. But, just making the connection.
Is there anything, if you put the notes down, is there anything that your heart wants to tell this group that has to do with the genius of the ant? Like what
the
does
genius
that,
of the end?
that infinite possibility, that's that gap space, that's that God space, that's where the miracle can happen. Don't you think, you believe in miracles?
Oh, yes.
Tell me about that.
Oh, do I believe in miracles?
You know what? I believe that miracles are God's ordinary activity. People call them miracles because it's like, I love this word, numinous, means like Moses in the burning bush. It's not something that you would see every day, right?
Right.
It's like, what? It's a burning bush and then it's talking. It's not burning up. It's not exhausting, but it's talking. Oh my goodness. And it's talking that I am the divine. That's a numinous experience. It's when that extraordinary happens. But listen, you even talked about it. I think the extraordinary happens every single day because you can, like you said, get up, as my grandmother would say, and be on this side of the veil and in my right mind. And I got to go to the dentist because I got to go. You know, that's a miracle, don't you think?
It is.
Yeah.
What occurs to me right now is when my third sibling made, well, it's actually 4. I hadn't thought about it like that until now because my sister was my sibling too, that was born right before me. But my sister, Betty Jean, made her transition. Now, all the stuff surrounding it and, we're getting calls and so forth, and it had happened unexpectedly, but, so forth and so on. And the service was really quick. There are only going to be a few people, attending, 4 in total, including me. So we went through all the stuff and, we went to her services and so forth, just the 4 of us. But I have a friend that I hadn't even thought to call. I didn't call anybody. I don't think so. But I had got a call the next day or the day after from a friend that says, I want to tell earlier in the morning, because she said, I don't want to forget the details of what I want to tell you. So she told me about that she and I were in a place, and it's like we were way in the back, but there were like pews all the way in front of us. And she said, I only know that they were your relatives, but I was there too. She didn't know anything about my sister's transition. I hadn't called her, and there wasn't anybody to, in the family who, who would have thought to call her, but we were there. It was in her dream. And I had said a recitation of something during her ceremony, her homegoing, about, a ship going to meet, relatives and things like that. But I knew it was an impossibility that she would have known that my sister made her transition. She didn't know. And so that leads me in all kinds of directions. And so does that?
Yeah. So that's a miracle is what you're saying.
Yeah. That's a miracle.
Yes. And it's synchronicity too, where 2 things meet and they line up, and you might not be able to explain it, but that's what when I say that spirit is non-linear, it means it's not this straight path like this. It could go that way, it could go that way, and you can't entertain that unless you sit in the ant. Oh. Because if you do this or that, you're not going to get this other thing that it could be. Right?
I see. Yes.
Yeah. It's that liminal space of
Mm,
God.
mm.
That's where the infinite possibility
Mm.
lives. Yeah,
Infinite possibility, yes.
love it. Okay, do you want to hear any more from the audience? Is there a question you want to bounce out there to them? You want to hear from them what they think?
I want to know in your day-to-day thinking and so forth, in your life planning, do you think of and do you write down, what do I want? And do you do any journaling or writing from that? Because it occurs to me that sometimes I need more clarity in around what do I want? Yes.
Okay, so that's the question. Miss Grady is asking the audience if you will raise your reaction hand at the bottom of the screen, raise your hand. Let's get some conversation going for the last 9 minutes that we have. Yes, Miss Lula.
But when I wake up in the morning, first I give thanks. And then after that, I say what I'm grateful for. And then I set my intention for the day. I've only been doing that about since the pandemic.
Mm.
And what I notice is that when I fail to do that, my day is not as smooth as when I set my intention.
Mm-hmm.
And if I write it down, I can go back and examine it and see, not the next day, but in the long look back, how much I've grown or not grown.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Miss Lula. Who
Mhm.
else? Miss Grady is asking you about spiritual practice and how you stay grounded and what you do. Jody. You're muted.
I love to read the Daily Word, the magazine. I read those and then I do meditation. But over the time frame, I've read different articles where people will say things that they set in place for themselves. I think they said it was Mark Vincent Hansen that said, whatever happens to me today is for my good. I thought that's a beautiful thing to put into your head. And I read another article where a woman was saying, I say to myself, Dodie, for the God in you, I praise you, and praise you. And it feels like that kind of injection opens up the way for me. I'm okay with how my day transpired because I feel like I've added something to it. I'm complete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Paul.
I've been practicing this new thing every morning when I get up. I can hardly wait to see what wonderful things are in store for me. And that right away like Lula, it sets an intention. But I can sit there and have my coffee and start my morning prayer and get through all that. And then real life kicks in, right? And I'll have all these thoughts, all these sensations, like I got to do this, I've got to call Reverend Sunshine, or I get better text her, or I got to do this at church, or I've got to take care of the dog, or there's something Stephen needs from the doctor today, and it just overwhelms me, and I get stuck. But when I get out of my prayer and I sit down and I don't journal, but I write down those things that are running in my head, go to the doctor, call Reverend Sunshine, something for the dog. All of a sudden, and I'll forget the list, but because I took it out of this state of whirling confusion and wrote it down, I'll look back and my day goes easy and I knock those things out and I'll look at that list and I'll go, wow, I did that, and that with no stress, just because I took a minute to capture them from swirling around and occupying dead space up there and putting it down on the piece of paper. It captured it, and I don't know, I can't explain it, Grady, but when I go that route, I get everything on my list done with ease and grace.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
We're gonna we're gonna take Deborah, and we'll see if we have time for one more. Deborah?
Yeah, I am. Wow. Grady, I think already knows my practice, but I do not journal, but I have for over 25 years had a prayer partner, and we start our day with prayer. The moment we wake up, we start at about 6:30, unless she has an early meeting, we'll start at 5. And we actually say thank you for, we're in gratitude. We give 7 gratitudes that we are thankful for. And then we set our intention for that day. And then we pray for each other on those intentions. And over the course of, I'd say, those 25 years, we have so many miracles, as you were saying, Reverend Sunshine, that we now know that it's a daily occurrence, that God is, we are, I am. Yeah?
Love that. Thank you, Deborah. And it reminds me, maybe we'll let this be the last comment, and then I'll turn to Miss Grady to see if she has any parting comments. What Spirit gave me in class to build on as a spiritual tool to offer the students is whatever it is that you're praying about or for, whatever the divine quality, the principle that you want to realize. Remember the continuum? You know, if you got fear over here and you're working towards faith, or if you have health challenges and you're working on wholeness, or, you know, whatever it is, working on peace because you're unsettled, whatever that quality is, that you build you just create yourself a peace box. You create yourself a wholeness box. You can take a shoe box, and Constance is the creative part of me coming out, and you cut a hole in the top, and you write or a jar or something where you can write a little piece of on a piece of paper, especially if you're feeling healthy and whole, or if you're doing an affirmation or whatever it is, and you put it in there so that when you have those moments that you are really feeling on your pity pot or what have you, that's not to bypass it. Don't get me wrong. We need to process through our feelings, but sometimes we have to remind ourselves of who we are. That's why we have a prayer partner. That's why Deborah was talking about, you know, the 7 thank yous and gratitudes or whatever, so that you can remind yourself that God is wholeness, God is well-being, and therefore I am too. And you're naming and claiming that in yourself. You can decorate your box or your jar or whatever it is and make it bling, right? Okay, Ms. Grady, do you have any parting comments before, because we're right out about time. We have 2 more minutes.
Well, I have to remember to breathe. That's why I like, you know, to be in on everything that involves being prayed in and prayed out, because that's, you know, it gives me some place to be. And I have my phrase that I use if I'm kind of going, you know, off the script. So I say, God is, I am, and all is well. And I breathe. And so that, you know, that calms me and brings me back to alignment.
God is, I am,
and all is well.
I think we need to like take ourselves off mute. It's going to be a cacophony. That's all good. If you're willing, take yourself off mute. And Reverend Sally, if you can, oh, she put it in the chat, that I think we can end on that affirmation. If you're willing, I'll count us out. Y'all ready? Okay, on a 1 and a 2 and a 3. God
is, I
am, and
all
is
is
well.
well.
And we breathe, right? We just radiated it out. I think we need to say it again because we need to radiate it out beyond this Zoom room. Let's do it again. God is, I
am,
and
all
is
is
well.
well.
Yes, yes.
That is so good. Thank you all. Please give some snaps and some claps and some heart emojis and whatever you want to for Miss Grady Nobles.
And
Oh,
all
thank you.
too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Grady. Thank you, Grady.
Reverend Sally, it's back to you.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, we have started something fabulous tonight. What do you think, folks? Thumbs up? More for this conversation? Yeah, I'm thinking so. Thank you, Reverend Sunshine, and thank you, Grady Mae, for coming and participating in this conversation with us this evening.
I'm so
So
glad.
many things in the chat. Please, if you want to save the chat, there is a way to save it. Go ahead and do it now because once the Zoom is closed, all that goes away. So go ahead and save the chat now. And we have so much going on at the center that we want to tell you about. So I'm going to ask Helene to bring up our slides so that we could see what's going on. And I will get my own notes here. So this coming Sunday, Reverend Sunshine Michelle will introduce us into the theme for November, which is a long theme: the mundane, the sacred, and the profane. Oh my. She'll be speaking on the mundane. Sigh. Meditation begins at 10:30 a.m. in the sanctuary and service starts at 10:30. Following that, on Wednesday night, November 8th, our own practitioner, Christopher Brown, will continue the discussion on the mundane sigh. Meditation begins at 6:30 p.m. Service starts at 7, and Wednesday night is always on Zoom. So if you are thinking about selling your wares at the Holiday Craft Fair, then you better act now because tables for the vendors are filling up. So get your application in and come on by on December 3rd to shop. This is a fundraiser for the center, so you'll hear more about it on Sunday as well. The Diversity Circle Fall Potluck is this Saturday. We're celebrating the Diversity Circle, November 4th, 11:30 a.m. in the social hall. It's a potluck, so get out of that Zoom box, bring a dish from your cultural heritage, and join the discussion of what's next for the Diversity Circle. Be part of what's next. Now, the following day is November 5th, and that's our open forum. This is our opportunity to tell about what's going on in the beloved community. And there's so much going on. We have a great presentation ready, and Reverend Sunshine and Maureen, I think, will be the ones who'll be delivering most of that information. So come, the open forum starts at 1 p.m. There will be food service after service on Sunday, so you can stay, have some food and fellowship, and then go to the open forum. Here's a drum roll. After a pandemic hiatus, the Evening of Blessings is back this November 10th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And this is a special evening. It's a very sacred evening. It takes place in the social hall. Dorothy and team transformed that space into a prayer temple with soft lighting, soft music. Deb Santa Maria will be providing the music, and you can get as many prayers as you want from as many different practitioners as are there. It's a sacred evening. We invite you to come. After that, November 17th, We are having a dance party. Get your tickets now. It's a music concert. You could see the lineup here on the slide. It is fantastic. You're going to want to be there. And we are still accepting applications for the 2024 nonprofit partner. Get your application in by sending it to Beth Van Arkel, and there is a link for it on the About Us page of the website. I feel like I could go on and on and on with what's going on at the center. So there is a lot happening at the center. Some of the individuals that you can reach out to find out more about what's going on at the center are listed here on our slide. You can find their information out on the website as well. And remember, in this day and age of social media, go to YouTube, go to Facebook, like us, subscribe, leave a comment of how much you love Oakland Center out there so that you can find out more about the Oakland Center. All right, beloveds, we're going to move into one of my favorite times next, and this is our time of conscious giving. Conscious giving is our opportunity to say thank you financially to the center. We do a lot. We have a lot of activities at the center, and yes, it does cost money for us to do these things. And more importantly, there is a spiritual law in action here, because as you give, you receive. It's a circulation, law of circulation. So I invite you to think about it now as we say our giving affirmation together. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies this offering. It blesses all that I am, all that I give, and all that I circulate. Thank you, love as me. Thank you, beloveds. And there are so many ways to give at the center. You can click on the donate button on the website. And when you do, you'll be given opportunities to use Zelle. You can give a check at the Sunday service. You can text. Let's see if there's one other over there. I think that's it. You can do auto tithe. There's just so many ways to give to the center. And we thank you ahead of time for your giving. Talking about thank yous. Wow. What an evening this has been. Thank you so much, Reverend Sunshine, for listening to Spirit's call and the idea that came through to invite our own Miss Grady Mae Nobles into a conversation. I know that I have learned much this evening, and I do at the Dr. Dan sessions every weekday as well. We are truly blessed with Miss Grady Mae Nobles. I also want to thank the tech team behind the scenes. Peter this evening is out visiting with relatives, and our own Helene has come in to do the PowerPoint for us, and we are so grateful for those who step up to do that. We also have both Alice's, Alice Herndon and Alice Knutson, doing the muting and the spotlighting. And of course, we've got Constance Chapman putting it all together for us and providing us the information. We are very blessed at the Oakland Center. And so I say thank you to all. And so now I'd like to hand it back to Reverend Sunshine to pray us out. Thank you.
You're muted.
Technical difficulties. We'll get it worked out.
Yes.
Yes.
In the spirit of this love and this divine yes, what I know for sure is God is all there is. There is nothing else regardless of appearances. That means God is operating as me, Sunshine Michelle is operating as Miss Grady Mae, and everyone on this call, everyone at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, all of our family, all of our beloved community, all the people in the world, and our ancestors, and the divine beings on the other realms is everywhere present. And I am so grateful to know this deep within my soul and in my cells. And so I bless all of that and know the wholeness and the love and the joy and the harmony and the peace and the clarity and the wellness and the faith and the trust and everything that God is, I know for each and every beloved, including the animal life and the plant life and all that is. It simply is in its greatness. And I know beyond any sense of appearances that this is the truth. And so I bless our time together tonight, giving thanks for us co-creating the word of truth that we all can fall asleep on. I know that we move forward in safety and under divine protection, and that all things truly are working together for the best and the highest and the greatest as we lean into the genius of God through the and. It's the both and the infinite possibilities that are manifesting in our lives constantly. So I simply throw this word up into the divine ethers, knowing that love and law activates it, and it showers us with blessings right now and forevermore. And for this, we can proclaim together, and so it is.
So it
So
is.
it is.
So
So
it
it
is.
is.
Amen. Ashe. Blessed be.
Good night.
Can't do that
Blessings
anymore.
all.